Logistics Center Forum, excuse me, this year conducted via webinar, and I will try not to lose my voice. This is Rusty Annemoser with the Florida Department of Transportation, and I'll be the moderator this morning. These webinar sessions are designed to provide an opportunity for the private sector and public partners to hear from Florida experts about the opportunities in this growing field. Specifically, the agenda includes the application process for the ILC program, ILC development and site selections, where ILC will go in the future, and a question and answer session with prior year attendees, which we're going to hear today. Now let's talk for a moment about how the webinar works. For anyone new to webinars, here are a few quick tips about your webinar control panel. You can click on the arrows on the left side of the panel to open or close it. You can view the presentation in full screen mode with the bottom button on the left side. The webinar is being recorded, which means that all audience members are muted, and we'll show you where you can get the recording at the end of the webinar. You may communicate with us by using the question box. Just remember that you need to click the send button for us to receive your questions or comments. If you have more than one person at your location, we'd like to get a better estimate of the number of people attending today's webinar. We know we have some locations where groups of people are attending. Thank you very much for entering those numbers. So our speakers today are Travis Harvey and Phil Hetzner. They are previous award winners, and they're going to be discussing their experience with the process of receiving funds for their ILC program. Travis Harvey brings more than 16 years of project management experience to his role as Senior Project Manager with Flagler Global Logistics, FGL. In this capacity, he oversees all facets of development for several key FGL projects, including Flagler Station Phase 3, County Line Corporate Park, Lakeland Central Park, and Titusville Logistics Center. Phil Hetzner is a Director of Project Finance at Keystone Properties, LLC, a deepwater bulk terminal on the St. Johns River in Jacksonville, Florida. To start us off, here's an introductory message from Florida Department of Transportation Assistant Secretary Rich Bider.
Hello and welcome to the 3rd Annual Intermodal Logistics Center Forum. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Richard Bider. I'm the Assistant Secretary for Intermodal Systems Development with the Florida Department of Transportation. The Intermodal Systems Development Offices include the Transportation Development Offices such as Policy and Systems Planning, Environmental and Transportation Statistics, and the Office of Freight, Logistics, and Passenger Operations, which houses aviation and spaceports, rail and motor carrier, seaports, and transit. The FLP office was created to act as a tool to better connect, develop, and implement a freight planning process that maximizes the use of existing facilities and integrates and coordinates the various modes of transportation, including the combined utilization of both government-owned and privately owned resources. The office coordinates between the modal offices to ensure that Florida's logistics infrastructure remains cutting edge and aware of transportation innovations. The ILCs are an important part of our logistics infrastructure, which will enable Florida to truly be a global hub for domestic and international trade. I hope you were able to join us yesterday for the sessions on the ILC application process. The speakers went through the application piece by piece to help you better understand how the agency partners review them and how they gave you a detailed background of the program. They discussed how the application relates to the statute that created the funding and the rule that defines the parameters. Additionally, they offered an insight on what exactly FDOT and DEO look for in a successful application and the critical link between seaports and the ILCs. If you missed any of the previous sessions and would like to view them, they will be posted online on freightmovesflorida.com shortly. This session, question and answer with prior year awardees, will feature speakers representing several past funded ILCs, focusing on what their project was, specifically what they were able to accomplish with the ILC funds, and how these funds benefited their operations. Now, I'd like to turn the microphone over to your speakers. Thank you, and enjoy the session.
All right, our first speaker will be Travis Harvey from Flagler Global Logistics.
Thank you, Rusty, and Rich as well. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak today. This program has been tremendously beneficial to Flagler Global Logistics core business, and so it's really an honor to be able to discuss what we've been able to accomplish through the ILC program. If we go to the first slide, I'd like to give an overview of our business, and then we can dive a little deeper in detail how it relates to the ILC. Flagler Global Logistics is actually one of four companies that are under our current company of Florida East Coast Industries. Florida East Coast Industries was purchased in 2007 by Fortress Investment, and they're a private equity firm out of New York, about $64 billion of assets under management, and very focused on transportation-oriented investment, which is what attracted to Florida East Coast back in 2007. The other of the companies besides Flagler Global Logistics include All Aboard Florida, Parallel Infrastructure, and the original company of Flagler, the holding company for the variety of assets that we still maintain. More particularly, where I'm focused is on the development under Flagler Global Logistics, which our focus is integrated real estate and a logistics company. We are now a logistics company beyond just a real estate developer. We develop Class A warehouse, office buildings, and other facilities. We have over 30 million square feet that we've developed. We are also very strong as far as land holdings throughout the state of Florida. We own over 1,400 net acres of strategic development land throughout the state. And by strategic land, our focus has always been linking rail, roadways, and our land parcel to leverage transportation and intermodal capabilities for our business model. Now, our sister company as well as Florida East Coast Railway, so we have a long history going back to railroad and intermodal activities on the rail. So we have 11 corporate parks around Florida, over 30 million square feet of developed warehouses, I mentioned, 6 million square feet of office, plus cold storage, retail, and other developments. So we've been a leading developer within Florida for a long time. Now, when we look at the overall map of Florida, you see that we have assets throughout Central and South Florida. Our office is down here in Coral Gables. So our backyard, if you will, is the South Florida Miami market, where we have 3 parks, Flagler Station, South Florida Logistics Center, and County Line Corporate Park. When you get further towards Central Florida, you get St. Lucie Distribution Center, which is served by rail and has access to both I-95 and the Turnpike. The Titusville Logistics Center has a mile of rail frontage and is directly adjacent to the Executive Airport. That a lot of activities going on with horizontal rockets and some of the new private industry that's replacing the shuttle program. So we're very excited about that piece of property as well, and are currently activating that development. And then Lakeland Central Park. Lakeland is a key hub along the I-4 corridor, and that's a 700-acre park there that we are also activating. So that gives a sense of Flagler Global Logistics throughout the state of Florida. We can dive into more particularly South Florida Logistics Center on the next slide. South Florida Logistics Center was the first park for which we applied for the ILC grant and were awarded. This property is a really unique property, I wouldn't even just say for Florida, but nationwide. It was originally one of Florida East Coast rail yards, and they're still operating on the northern portion of the property. But the southern portion of the property, we really saw an exciting opportunity for intermodal, true intermodal industrial development, as it has direct access to Miami International Airport, which is a huge cargo terminal for Latin America and the Caribbean. And it also has dedicated rail access via FECR's rail that can get you both to Port Miami and Port Everglades. And so the function there of acting as a true intermodal facility is really in keeping with the ILC grant and what it was created for. So overall, it's a 200-acre master plan logistics park, previously a rail yard and a lay-down yard, for example, for vehicles. It housed a roll-on, roll-off operation for many years for the railroad. But we've now turned it into our flagship Class A development, as well as houses, the first building is our logistics company's headquarters as well. So we're both developing and operating within that. So not only have we felt the benefit as a developer, but also the interconnectivity that the ILC grant has facilitated has helped our own business operations within there for cold storage of, as well as sorting and packing of a variety of perishable products and dry goods. As I mentioned, it does have direct access to the Miami International Airport, as well as the FEC railway that gets you to the ports. We have the exclusive rail access to both Port Miami and Port Everglades, and both lines have recently been upgraded, and we've had a lot of infrastructure work going on to support that connectivity. The park is also an approved foreign trade zone magnet site, which took over a year to secure. But that, again, with international companies, both in Europe and Latin America, has really provided a boost and incentive for companies to be stationed there. The next slide dives into some of the economic impacts. We are currently building buildings 1 through 6 north of 36th Street at the South Florida Logistics Center. Part of the application process for this grant was an economic study to understand the benefits of the state dollars funding these improvements for connectivity. And I'll just read off a slide that this project is slated to support over 2,500 direct jobs and indirect jobs annually. Has over almost $160 million of direct and indirect personal income and local consumption expenditures. Over $160 million of business revenues, $53 million of local purchases, almost $15 million of state and local taxes, and $28.7 million of federal tax revenue. So tremendous benefit for the investment that the state made. Zooming in on the next slide, we can look at the actual site plan. As I mentioned, our current developments, if you see Northwest 36th Street somewhat bisects the property to a northern and southern portion. The northern portion, we have built buildings 1, 2, and 3. And the loop road that you see that comes up the east side, loops around the north side of building 1, and then down the west side. It was the main infrastructure requirement to activate this property. That was a key piece that was that the state funds were used to develop. That loop road, as well as the drainage for the road to support the road, and the entrance on and off. There's a right-in, right-out entrance of that loop road onto 36th Street. So those funds were dedicated to those improvements. Next, we can look at Flagler Station 3. Flagler Station 3 is in northwest Miami-Dade, just west of Medley. It fronts the turnpike. It's got great turnpike frontage and direct access to the turnpike. Flagler Station, this is the third phase of the project. Flagler Station's phase 1 and 2, to give you a sense of the magnitude, have over 5 million square feet of developed warehouse and office space. Includes the headquarters for Ryder, and several other Fortune 500 companies. And so this third phase is an exciting piece of the puzzle that we've finally activated 100 acres on the north side of 106th Street. And we have built out the first half of that. It's ultimately to be a 100-acre master plan Class A business park. We plan for approximately 1.7 million square feet of distribution warehouse. Again, immediate access to the Florida Turnpike is a key draw for this property. And that provides, because of its location close to Broward and to Miami-Dade, the distance to the port as well as the airport in Fort Lauderdale is longer, but the drive time is almost equivalent. So this park draws from people serving Broward as well as Dade, and a lot of these logistics companies are serving both. So this is the best of both worlds as opposed to having to house two separate facilities, one in Broward and in Miami-Dade. If you flip to the next slide, we can look specifically at the site plan. This was directly from the application that we submitted for the ILC grant. This was our second award through the state, and as you can see, everything shown in orange are significant infrastructure improvements that needed to be made for the connectivity of intermodal traffic to get out to the Florida Turnpike, which you see on the west side of the property. It included improvements to the intersection of 106th Street and Northwest 112th, which you see at the bottom right of the map, to both preserve and improve the flow of our current park. As I mentioned, there's quite a bit of traffic for those 5 million square feet, but also to then serve the new tenants in the Phase 3 portion of the park. In addition to Northwest 112th, 107th Street carries you to the west, and then what you have is basically a ladder system of private drives and interconnected parking or truck courts that allow the free flow of traffic in and out of the site. So these funds are dedicated to upgrading the intersection, extending Northwest 112th Street, which is a 4-lane road with a median, and Northwest 107th Street, as well as all those internal roadways. Next, you can see an actual aerial. I wanted to show where we were at as far as progress on this project. As you can see, you see the nice white lime rock and lake that have been excavated that are the southern portion of Flagler Station 3. The northern portion is our next phase, which we are activating currently, and we'll be finishing out the mass grading and infrastructure components of this project. But as you can see, as of right now, Northwest 112th Street is built. Northwest 112th Avenue is built. Northwest 112th Street is in to a T turnaround, and we'll continue from there. All the utilities were placed under this, and you can see the first building pads taking shape for buildings 1 and 2. We're very excited about that. It's been a long time in the making to get development going in this phase. I've been working on and off on this project for over 7 years. So we've got 250,000 plus square feet coming out of the ground right now of Class A warehouse space. As you can see, it directly connects to the Florida Turnpike and then can feed goods to both the ports as well as airports and really serve to further the purpose of these ILC grants. To dive into the economic impact, if we look at the next slide. Again, this is part of the economic analysis that was performed to secure the grant. This project supports over 2,600 direct, induced, and indirect jobs annually, over almost 80 million of total earnings of these workers annually, 380 million in economic output from Miami-Dade County and the state of Florida. So really a great job creator, as well as creating revenue for the local municipalities in the state. Last slide, I've touched on a few of the points, is really the benefit of the ILC grant. For us, it's been a great program. It's been great working with FDOT. It's helped us offset infrastructure costs for these parks. These infrastructure improvements are very costly, and we see these warehouses as our critical responsibility and our role that we play in the logistics and flow of goods through the state of Florida. And we're intimately familiar with that, as I said, now that our business is actually providing these logistics and coordinating the movement of these goods. So it's really critical to have that Class A, high-quality, modern, state-of-the-art space. We've really seen a flight to quality in the market and have benefited from that as people see, higher, clear heights with ability to store more materials in these buildings. It's been a tremendous period over the past 3 years of seeing the growth of the state, and as we've been rebounding from some of the economic downturns. So it's also expedited our ability to get these projects online. Having these funds and being able to dedicate them to some of the front-end costs, which are some of the most difficult, has really been a great help. So that allows us to bring more jobs and economic growth into the area and just do it that much faster. So it's really stimulated that. And why apply? I mean, the project goals are in line with FDOT's goals and enable us to expedite projects. It's really a no-brainer for us. This is a direct application of this matching grant where we have to spend these dollars, and it's been a great public-private participation and partnership here with the state, and I think it's led made great strides towards economic improvements in the state and in intermodal logistics. So again, thank you very much. Appreciate the time and look forward to any questions anyone has.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Travis. We are going to hold questions until the end of both presentations, but we see there are some coming in. So if you'll just hang on until the end of Mr. Hetzner's presentation, we will get to those. I want to apologize for some technical sound issues we had earlier, but I think we've got those fixed, so thanks for bearing with us. Our next speaker is Phil Hetzner from Keystone Industries. Phil?
Thank you, Rusty, and good morning, everyone. Yeah, I'm Phil Hetzner, the Director of Project Finance for Keystone Properties, and we're a single-purpose company. We own and operate a terminal in Jacksonville. We were formed to acquire the property and then build out and develop the facilities we have there, and part of which are now being funded by the ILC program award that we received. If you see the picture on the bottom of the first slide, the sort of circular area there in the foreground, that is our terminal, and that's our business. If you go to the next slide, I'll talk a bit about what our business is. We own this 110-acre site. It was formerly a pulp and paper mill, and over the years we have developed it into a deep water dry bulk terminal with access to ocean-going vessels. The site is serviced directly by the Norfolk Southern and good road access direct to I-10 and I-95. On our own, and I was sort of interested in what Travis said about development and operation. Initially, we were a development company. We had to start from scratch with a raw piece of land, and over years and a lot of investment, able to turn it into an operating business. But even today, we're still a development company. We have acres that we still need to put to use, and we're out generating business for putting additional throughput through the terminal. So it's a little odd from a development perspective that we're just always at the same site, but really that's just the way a logistics center like this moves from concept to being fully operational. The work we did initially starting in 2009 was there was a very badly deteriorated bulkhead at the site. We wanted to be able to bring in post-Panamax vessels, wider beam vessels, so we worked with the Corps of Engineers and the Coast Guard and decided we'd put a new bulkhead in about 90 feet back from the current one. So we were able to build that bulkhead in the dry. It was a very efficient and cost-effective way to build a bulkhead because we're really just on the ground digging down rather than out in the water. Once we had the bulkhead installed, we excavated between the old and the new, and then eventually pulled the old steel bulkhead and dredged out to the channel. We're very fortunate at our site to be so close to the channel. On one hand, we had to cut back our property a bit, but For the long term, we have very little area to maintain from a dredging perspective, and I think that'll play to our benefit over time. We have the same depth for our side of as the main channel does, so that was important. And although we won't benefit from the deepening of the channel, at least as currently planned, as long as Jacksport operates Talleyrand, dredging will occur up to Talleyrand, and that means dredging will occur in front of our terminal. We installed some pretty significant conveying, receiving, and stacking facilities to perform on a long-term contract that we entered into right about the time we started construction. So we knew we had our first business before we got too deep into the project. And that was critical for us being able and willing to invest money. We also put in about 5,000 feet of rail loop. It wasn't a complete unit train rail loop, but it was adequate to do the business that we were initially committed to performing. And then, of course, we worked with the Homeland Security and Coast Guard again to ensure that the facility was secure from their perspective, and we're a TWIC facility, so we put in all the fencing and lights, cameras, guards that were required. After a couple of years of work, getting all the permits and then building out the facilities, we received our first Panamax. Our first vessel was a Panamax class vessel, 60,000 tons of stone, up from the Yucatan Peninsula into our terminal on May 6th. That was a great day for us. We're capitalized to perform just what this company can do, and so finally achieving revenue was a big day for us. Since that time, we are handling imports of limestone from Mexico, flash and iron silica granules from Western Europe, gypsum from Canada, and coal from Colombia. And we've also handled exports of wood chips and scrap metal. The wood chips are a long-term business. Scrap metal is more spot, although we have high hopes for that business out of Jacksonville. It's a good area for scrap metal exports. And so from scratch in 2011, we're going to do over 1 million tons of product this year. On the next slide, talk a little bit about our project, what we proposed and applied for with the through the ILC program, and that was to complete the unit train loop. And if you look at the picture here, you can see we highlighted in green, starting at the top, coming out of the trees there. That was the initial 5,000 feet of loop track we installed. We applied to the Florida DOT for completing that loop, and that's the red line coming around and reconnecting to the green. And then we needed to put in a Y connection back to the Norfolk Southern. That's the little stub of red going into the woods. And that was important because if you can imagine bringing in a unit train, 100 cars, and a couple locomotives, and getting on the green circle, turning to red, and coming back around, by the time we made a full circle, we'd really just gotten all the cars on the loop, just, feet between the locomotive and the last car. So then you come back around again, you discharge in the rail pit I'll talk about, come back around to the red, and you really need to be able to pull directly out. Originally, we thought we could just move the power of the locomotives to the other end of the train, but that then requires that you check each car connection for pressure, and it takes a lot of time and costs money. So the Y back to Norfolk Southern was really important for us. And then the other part of our project that we applied for was to put in the Intermodal transfer facility, which is a below-grade rail dump. And that's a significant project. When you imagine digging down 32, 34 feet, and you can see the river right there along the berth. That's right about the middle of the berth there is where the rail pit would go in. And you just have a lot of water issues to deal with when you're digging down that deep so close to the water. And it's big. It will be able to store or put 2 rail cars over the pit for discharging simultaneously. So anyway, that was our project. We had about a total cost of $4.5 million. And if you go to the next slide, I'll talk a bit about why it was so important for us. We, as I mentioned earlier, we started off with a lot of investment on our own, initially with a contract, a long-term contract underpinning that investment. And then as we grew incrementally with different products, some required more investment, more capital, and some not much more than just the ground that we already had and facilities we had on hand. But always with a view of getting contracts to support any capital investment required. The ILC program is really designed to sort of help participants get assets built that maybe they don't see immediately where the revenue is going to come to support that investment, but with a recognition from paying attention to the market that if we build these facilities, people actually will come. I think in the case of our project we proposed ILC, we weren't prepared to make that bet solely on our own, but with the FDOT's assistance, it made sense for us to make a significant investment on our own, being supplemented with money from FDOT. And so that's really the first time we sort of stepped out in front of fully contracted business in any significant way. But in doing that, we really have our eye on a couple of different products that will help us ultimately contract for and do. Those are exports of metallurgical coal from Alabama. We're talking to steel producers in Brazil and in Europe and making arrangements for coal supply coming out of Alabama. That's a big move for us. And then wood pellets, which have had their ups and downs over the years. And certainly at this point, it's somewhat stabilized, but Florida and South Georgia are just a huge fiber market, millions of acres, and able to support millions of tons of exports. And we think ultimately wood pellets will move through our terminal. We're already doing wood chips and round wood through the terminal, but we think we can expand that business with rail reaching deeper into the fiber basket. And then on the import side, initially our plan was to import coal from Colombia, and the market's turned, so we've only recently begun to move coal through the terminal. But we think now that the markets have turned, that business will come back, and we'll be moving Colombian steam coal into the Florida, South Georgia market for power companies and cement producers, et cetera. And then, we had some ongoing business. We've been handling 10 or 20 cars at a time with the rail loop in and able to receive unit trains. Total cars on a track are actually 98 plus 2 locomotives. That will allow one of our current customers to reduce the cost of transportation from the rail and therefore move more product in because they'll be able to gain more market with a lower cost structure. So that was important. And then, like I said before, just the notion that it's something we really wanted to do. We've had our eyes on it for years. Realized that a couple of times maybe we hadn't been able to get some business that we might have if the assets had been in place and then the program was developed. It was a perfect fit for us and will turn out to be extremely beneficial. On the next slide, really just run through why I think this project was attractive from the Florida DOT's perspective. And there's an application that people have heard about yesterday, and certain criteria you have to meet. But I think generally, the more you can knit a fabric of these SIS corridors together, you can't always recognize all the benefits that will result from that. So we fit in nicely with the I-95, I-10 corridors I spoke about. We are on the Norfolk Southern, so spur line, but being on a Class 1 mainline railroad is a huge benefit for us, and one of the reasons we like the site to begin with. And then Jacksport's facilities are up and down the river, and we think we can move product through those facilities, as I talk about in the next point. We are partnering to build out a lime kiln on our site, an industrial facility, so not just handling throughput, but actually going to produce lime on site, and some of that lime will get sold into the Caribbean, and the way it'll move there is by us loading containers and driving them down the road to one of the JAXPort facilities for shipment over to the Caribbean. We also currently are just entered into an agreement with someone to come on site that are putting assets on the ground right now to put logs into containers. As long as containers come to Florida, empty containers are going to have to go back to Asia, and Asia represents a very large market for wood fiber, whether it's pulp or wood pellets ultimately, but at this time whole logs, roundwood, and we'll be shipping those containers through JAXPort as well. That business will start up within a month, and we're hoping to go from stuffing containers to loading out bulk vessels with logs. So with the continued development of our terminal, we've already driven growth on the river and rail. I think really we're talking about 1 million tons of product that wouldn't otherwise have been on the river this year, and we're going to continue to grow that business. And then, you know, all the things that Travis was talking about also adhere to this project, that we're going to create job opportunities both of our own terminal and then secondarily all the service providers. You know, it's just this product comes in by rail, and that's very efficient from an energy and personnel perspective, but ultimately we're a bulk terminal, and bulk products move by truck eventually to their end market typically, and it takes a lot of drivers to make that happen. So, you know, we're putting drivers to work, and the wood products are great because they put guys back out into the timberlands. So we feel like we have a lot to contribute and have contributed to Jacksonville and the state. And then I think in the end, of course, you've got to put matching funds up, and we were able to do that. Next slide, please. Just to give a sense of how this worked for us, we were able to get an application in for the first round of this program. It was a new program at the time. We made the deadline. We applied for $2.25 million, and we're not able to get all of that in the first round. I think DOT really wanted to spread this around and get as many projects as they can get going off the ground. We applied again for the balance of what was required in July, shortly after we received the first award, and that was approved with a supplemental agreement in April of 2014. So you can just see this program works quite quickly from providing or submitting applications to receiving approval. In our case, since receiving the grant, we have completed the unit train rail loop just earlier this year in January. I'd like to say the Y track is completely installed, but we've done all that we're required to do. Norfolk Southern needs to make the connection. All the materials that they're required to install are on site, and I really thought I'd be able to say it was completed today, but hopefully in the next week or two that'll be done. So we'll have a fully functional rail loop and Y, and able to ship product out by unit train, you know, as soon as that's done, within a week or two. The rail pit, that is a different timeline for us. It would be required and is required for us to receive rail cars with bulk product and discharge on site, and then ultimately loaded onto typically vessels. We have done all the preliminary engineering. We have a good set of plans now that we've worked through with both the engineers and the vendors, and I've done the geotechnical work, so we know the kind of construction we're going to have to do to install the pit. And the location, it sounds like a simple thing, but locating that rail pit where it's most efficient, it's going to be most efficient to move multiple products to where we want them located at the terminal was a big effort. Once you pour that concrete, you don't want to reconsider and have made any mistakes. So that actually took a lot of time. We are completing another capital project right now at the terminal. We're a small company, and so once we get that project completed, which is a truck tipper for the wood chip business, the wood chip export business, we will turn our full attention back to the rail pit and fully expect to have that in service later this year. Well, I think the last slide coming up here is just a summary of how it's worked for us, and I think Keystone Properties has been very well served by both the state and the city. When we had our ribbon cutting ceremony, both Governor Scott and Mayor Brown were on site for that. We've continued to have a lot of support, as you can see just from getting the grant funds. And those funds were absolutely critical to us moving forward with this project. Like I said, we'd had it under consideration for years. We just couldn't quite take the next step. But FDOT helped us do that. FDOT's been great to work with, both on the application side of it, and also ultimately, we spend our money, we submit a request for reimbursement, and it's been very good in terms of funding the reimbursement. So it's been great. Very appreciative of that, and also thanks for everyone's time, and happy to answer any questions.
Great, Phil, thank you so much, and thank you, Travis. Both your presentations were quite interesting. We've got a few questions for both of you, and to avoid that echo that we were having before, if you'll just make sure that you wait for the mute or unmute signal before you speak. Travis, the first question is for you. Did the project need to be approved by the local government prior to receiving your grant?
No, it did not. Obviously, we were running through the approval process concurrently, but the application process did not, if memory serves, did not stipulate having the full permits in process, and that I would say that would have been very difficult to run those in series rather than concurrently, to have to have gained all the approvals and then submit the application at the right time of the year to be able to gain that. The application certainly focused more on the economic impact, the project itself, as well as our ability to match the funds necessary to complete the work. But the approvals were ongoing at that time.
Our next question is for Phil. How many rail cars can the loop accommodate?
98 rail cars and 2 locomotives. Maybe I didn't wait till I was unmuted. Did you hear that? Um, 98 rail cars and 2 locomotives.
Great, thank you. The next questions are for both of you, so we'll just ask you again to, maybe Travis can go first and Phil second on these, and wait for that mute tone. How hard did you find it to put together your application, Travis?
Well, we took the application very seriously, so it did take some time to put it together. Actually, if I recall, it landed perfectly in the middle of my 4th of July vacation out in Idaho. So more than anything, the challenge was coordination. But once the economic study was complete, drafting a business plan and putting together the necessary exhibits, it was not too difficult. It is a large package to put together, but I'd say overall it took us about 3 to 4 weeks, and that was because we had a lot of resources that were out of pocket, and so we set up weekly conference calls. But after that, it was very smooth.
So how hard did you find, Phil, how about you? How hard did you find it to put together your application?
Can you hear me? Yes, similar to what Travis just said, the way I remember it was, sort of realizing the program was there. It was relatively late in the open season for it. I think we did pull it all together in probably a similar time frame, 3 to 4 weeks. We were an operating facility, so we had a fair amount of information to work with, and we'd been considering this for a while. So I looked at that process as, certainly for the reward, there was no question the effort was warranted. I think the economic analysis, sort of those benefits, that was probably the hardest thing, because we don't typically look, we look at how developing new business affects our bottom line, and of course we understand economically that there are benefits outside the gate, but we don't typically look at things that way. That was a little bit new for us, but we, again, were able to handle that.
Okay, Phil, while we've got you on, we'll give you the next question as well. Have you ever received any other state grants?
The only other funding we've received was, I can't think exactly what it's called, but essentially it's a tax abatement program through the city of Jacksonville that helped us some on the property taxes associated with the new lime kiln project. And then there was a state element to that as well, having to do mostly with job creation and training.
Travis, we'll pass that question back to you. Have you ever received other state grants for your project?
Well, on the specifically to the Flagler Global Logistics side, I'm not familiar with any other state grants that we have achieved. Now, as an organization overall, yeah, there's certainly been lots of programs that I haven't been involved in that I'm sure we've secured state grants. I do know that on the Florida East Coast Railway side, we worked closely with the state and did gain some state fundings for the ICTF facility up at Port Everglades, as well as track improvements to both Port Everglades and Port Miami. So those are the first things that come to mind of other programs that we've participated in. But specifically the Flagler Global Logistics and our company, I don't believe so.
Travis, we have some questions about memorandums of understanding. How difficult do you find it to get those?
Well, we didn't find it particularly difficult because the value add and the benefit to this program was very obvious. So we've got great relationships with the government at the local county level as well as the state level. And with having rail access to the port, we're in close communications and have great relationships with port directors as well as the logistics lines that run, cargo lines that run in and out of the port. So it was really a matter of making a few phone calls and explaining what we were working to achieve, and it wasn't difficult to sell. Everybody from local county commissioners to port directors to tenants within our facilities understood what we were going after, and we're happy to provide the letters.
Hey, Phil, how about you? Have you had any problems getting MOUs?
No. Again, if the question is really about the letters of support from the interested parties, we just have great relations with our current customers. I think we've been pretty diligent in making sure that we're doing business with very good companies, and they, of course, like what we're doing for them. So those were fine. And then from the government officials, we have had to do quite a bit of permitting and working with the city of Jacksonville. So all that was quite manageable. really, if I took that question a little more broadly, though, you know, MOUs or letters of intent for new business, those are sort of interesting, at least in the business we're in, because a lot of times people want to come in and talk about port capacity and things that they haven't even taken the first step on in terms of constructing a production facility that's going to need access to deep water. So there's a lot of traffic coming through. You got to be sort of careful how much time you spend with people, because a lot of times it's you know, they're just hunting around to try to figure out if there's an opportunity to ultimately do what they want to do, which is produce something. But I would never minimize the importance of being really careful when you're crafting those kinds of documents. But for the support required here, that was easy for us just because of existing relationships.
That's great advice, and I think we'll toss this next question to Phil first, since we've just had you for some more. Do you have any other advice that you might offer for new applicants?
Well, and you know, I spent a lot of my career developing industrial facilities and power plants, and here I am developing a terminal. But you know, I think you want to be able to tell yourself a really good story before you go out and start talking to other people, and that just means that you look at all the ins and outs, things coming in, things going out. Usually you're transforming a raw material into a product, or you're taking a commodity and moving it from here to there, or a finished product, whatever it is. You just have to make sure that you've thought of everything, and if you haven't, then it's going to be hard to be compelling and convince other people that they should buy into your idea. And so spending that time initially where you want to get things done and get pieces of paper signed, it doesn't make any sense to really start doing that until you've convinced yourself that what you're doing really makes sense and will have a good outcome. But that's just the way I think about things. You really have to be able to convince yourself. Don't kid yourself. And if you can convince yourself and you're being diligent and sort of doing your own due diligence, then you'll probably be able to get other people to buy into what you're trying to do.
Thanks, Phil. That's a great response. Travis, how about you? Do you have any advice for new applicants?
Yes, and this may go beyond the question, but it's my lesson learned, if you will. The application I found to be self-explanatory, and that process, you know, we described that it was manageable. Once awarded, one of the key items I would point out to the participants is make sure to get the notice of commencement approval with FDOT out of the way early. The way that the grant process works up until that point, the only funds that will be matched are design related. And so it's important to get that notice of commencement date recorded, and that sets the marker for when you can really be applying the larger piece, the hard cost funds and the infrastructure and construction related funds. So more of a lesson learned, or a point that once awarded, really pay close attention to that notice of commencement and get that date as early on in your process as you can.
Terrific. Thank you so much, and I'd really like to thank Travis Harvey and Phil Hetzner for joining us today. We've got one more question that we're going to pass to Jasmine Raffington, and that question is, are there any copies of applications from previous submittals online that we can take a look at?
The applications from previous submittals are not online, and we have no plans to post the information online. They include material that may not actually qualify legally as trade secrets, but material that I'm sure the applicants would not want posted in such a public manner. If you're working on or thinking of developing an application and you'd like to talk with us about what others have done, give us a call and we'll try and answer those questions for you. If we feel that you would benefit from speaking with some of the grantees that have experienced some of the issues that you may be trying to work through on your application, we'll reach out to them and ask if they would like to work with you in a mentoring type of relationship to help you understand how they resolve those concerns. But we are not looking toward putting their information up on the internet.
Thanks, Jasmine. And again, thank you, Travis Harvey with Flagler Global Logistics, and Phil Hetzner, Director of Project Finance for Keystone Industries, for your very, very interesting presentations. This afternoon at 2 o'clock, we're going to look to the future in terms of potential rule changes for the ILC program, and we'll have an interactive discussion on where the program is headed. Our panelists will be Jimmy McDonald, Senior Seaport Planner for CDM Smith and Florida DOT, Jasmine Raffington, Senior Policy Advisor for FDOT, and Keith Robbins, District 1 Freight Coordinator, also with Florida DOT. If you haven't registered for this afternoon's webinar, you can do that at freightmovesflorida.com. Again, as I said at the beginning, the session has been recorded and we expect it to be posted in the next few days at the completion of all the webinars for sure. If you have folks that were not able to attend today, or if you'd like to listen to the webinar again, just let them know and you can come to the website in a day or so. Finally, if you registered, you'll receive a very brief survey through email, and we hope you'll take